automating sales pipelines to build sustainable growth, which is what all businesses need, right? Her expertise spans account-based sales strategies, SaaS pipeline development, and immersive tech advocacy with a strong focus on AR, VR, MR, and XR solutions that transform digital workflows and enhance human experiences. She's passionate about cognitive health, brain training, and virtual storytelling. And she partners with innovative teams to bring groundbreaking XR applications to healthcare, education, and enterprise sectors. I also want to point out that Jenna has been leading for some time now through the XR Women Slack in a channel called Activities and Games, opportunities for us to come together with our community members and play VR games together on Thursday evenings. This is so much fun, and it's a great way to get to know others in the community. And I'm so grateful to Jenna for her efforts in keeping that going and encouraging us all to gather in that way and have some little bit of XR fun together. So, yeah, Julie, if you wouldn't mind stop sharing, and then Jenna, you can bring up your presentation deck. Yeah, and please let any of us know if you, I hope that you are all on Slack, and look for that Activities and Games channel, and please join us. Okay, Jenna, take it away. I'm going to step down.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Karen. And before I get started, I do want to say one thing about the games night on Thursday at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific, is that, I really wanted to create a space where we could just come and play. Of course, it's for business and for connection, but it's really just to have fun with each other and really get to immerse ourselves, in whatever game we're playing that night. And if you have a game or you've developed a game, we love to help you. If you need us to play test anything, or if you just want us to come in and play your game and give you feedback, we're always happy to do that as well. Okay, so I'm going to hop in super quick. I do have a lot of ground to cover, so I'll ask that any questions kind of be held to the end of the presentation. I'm going to go over immersive selling, turning XR innovation into revenue. Just a little bit about me, as Karen sort of introduced. I've been working with startups pretty much my entire career. I have almost a decade of sales experience, and I've sold XR experiences across multiple different industries. And the majority of my career, I've worked with startups with enterprise corporations. They give you a lot of experience, but there's really nothing like building from the ground up. And one of the reasons I love XR Women is there are a lot of startup founders here, and a lot of great information gets passed between us. So just show of hands, how many people are startup founders here? Yeah, okay, good. Quite a bunch of you. So this presentation is definitely for you. I'm going to go over super high level some information. It might be super basic to you, but we're talking with Karen. There might be some follow-up presentations as well, and always happy to dig in a little further afterwards if you have any questions. So one thing I do want to kind of hit on super quickly is that startups are a lot of work. 90% of startups fail. 10% of startups will fail in the first year, and 70% will fail within the first 2 to 5 years, and about 1 in 10 survive. And I didn't say all that because I want to scare you, rather just the opposite. I'm here to empower you, not to become that statistic, and to take charge of your revenue stream.
Works for you.
Awesome. So everything is in this presentation is labeled co-coordinated. So if you get a little lost or you're unsure where we're at, you can always look at the top. These teal colored headers are the title slides. Pink headers are the key takeaways, and the white ones are basically like subheadings. So as you're going through this later, or if you're just curious about how this all ties back, you can take a look at those. But what I wanted for you guys to take away from this is to really know how to understand your market, how to build efficient sales processes, and how to master your pitch. So I'll go ahead and hop into the first one here. Knowing your market means a lot, right? So it's very important that you've done a little bit of groundwork ahead of time. Although I hardly ever see any one company go into one market and stay there forever. You might want to expand, or you might just find that your particular product fits within a different market. So one of the things I do try to recommend to startups is, you do want to do your research. You do want to put some time in, but I wouldn't dig too deep. It's always best to just kind of hop in and test the marketplace and just kind of understand what's resonating with your audience. Go back, refine, repeat. Right. So, make sure that you're buying the mapping the XR buyer ecosystem. So, are you in healthcare? Are you in enterprise? Are you in education? And make sure to map those particular ecosystems to your stakeholders, decision makers, and influencers. It's always really good to align your XR solution features with the specific pain points of each audience. So you should have multiple types of decks that really focus on different types of audiences. And your decks should really be tailored for the audience that you're in front of, with custom assets. Everybody's expecting everything to be hyper personalized these days with the amount of information that's out there. So let's dig in a little further into mapping the buyer ecosystem. You want to start by looking for buying signals. That means, once you've picked your industry and you pull a list of companies, you want to look and see whether these companies are, budgeting allocations for innovation. Are they making public announcements of digital transformation efforts, or they're saying they're going to be running some XR pilots? And just because they've worked with one company doesn't necessarily mean they won't work with a different company that has a slightly different offering. And that's, again, where the power of these networks like XR Women really come into play. Partnerships can really help expand your reach and even expand your product offering. You also want to make sure, when you've identified your industry, that you're really tuning into, exactly what part of the industry, so subcategories of the industry that you're going into. Like, for example, if you're going to go into healthcare, what does that mean? Does that mean therapy? Does that mean healthcare training? Does that mean patient engagement? So really fine tune that in. And again, tailor all of your messaging to fit the buyer that you're reaching out to. And then last but not least of this is to, pull the job titles. And, job titles vary so much from industry to industry. So it's really good to get into a tool like LinkedIn and take a look at your market, take a look at the people, who are working there and what their job titles are, because it might be a little bit different. The next thing you can do is identify your stakeholders within organizations. Now, this is what I like to call the trifecta. If you're a little bit more religiously inclined, I do like to also call this the holy trinity of stakeholders. This just means there are at least 3 different types of people that can help close your deal that you really need on your side. It's not always one person unless you're going into really, really small startups. Even medium-sized companies typically have multiple people that are going to have to sign off on any type of work. So you definitely need somebody who holds the purse strings. Then they may not be on a finance team. It just might be somebody in control of the budget. It could be the VP of sales or the VP of HR. You need a champion. And so this is somebody who not only knows your product, likes your product, but you've also given a trial to and uses it so that they can speak the language to the people that you're presenting in front of. And then you need a change agent. Change agent usually are the type of people who really go in and they push to get things done, because your champion might be somebody a little lower level on the rung, and your finance person is like, sure, whatever, I know the budget, doesn't matter to me as long as everybody's happy. Your change agent goes in and sets the meetings and advocates for you in a way that's pretty difficult to do yourself. So as long as you have all these people on your side, it's you can pretty much get through an entire sales process. Let me go on to the next one. Okay, the next thing you want to do is, sorry guys. The next thing you want to do is align your tool with their pain points. So after you've figured out who your stakeholders are going to be, map each stakeholder to a pain point. So every buyer persona feels pain differently, and your job is to know, what's keeping them up at night. For somebody high level, like a CTO, it could be rising costs or data security. But for somebody in the innovation team, it's proving ROI or finding a scalable pilot. Everybody's going to feel that a little bit differently, and it's important to tailor, any sort of materials we send them or messaging to kind of reflect that, and just kind of keep an eye on their socials or, hey, sometimes I do catch-up meetings. Hey, why don't we just hop on a call and catch up? Where are you at? Listen to what projects they have going on and figure out, how you could potentially help them reach their next goal. Then you want to match each pain point to your particular solution, and then you want to quantify those results. Like, we help save X time with our tool. Let me send you a case study. And that's really just the best way to get the people to, be on your side. Another thing is to translate your jargon into their language. A lot of folks that end up purchasing tools are not technical, and what they really need to hear is how it's going to help them and their language. And even something as simple as, the healthcare industry, they don't call them customers, they call them patients, right? And so forth and so on. So you may be an expert in XR, but you also have to learn how to speak in the person's language who you're speaking to. All right. All right. So that's the end of that session. We're going to hop into building scalable, building a repeatable sales process. So even though every sale is going to look different, there are certain things that you're going to end up doing every single time. You're going to be sending emails. You're going to be sending contracts. You're going to be sending follow-up messaging and sales assets. So it's really, really, really important to templatize your outreach. And another thing I do see startups do a lot of the time is they build a ton of templates. They build a ton of messaging. They build a ton of slide decks and one-pagers. And then the messaging gets switched, or, you find out that people are responding to something in a different way, or they're using a tool a way that you didn't really expect. And so the best thing I find is to just kind of build as you go along, and then document the process. Because unless you have a ton of funding, there's just going to be a small handful of you. And it's better to have your salesperson or you as a founder sending more emails than it is, building a whole bunch of documents. They may not even get used. So when we're talking about templatizing your approach, there's some really cool techniques you could potentially use. Depending on what CRM you use, there are potential integrations in with your email client, or you could even just work from the CRM themselves to save email templates that win just from your inbox, or from the ones from the pages where you can see where people are responding. So it is important to save those repeatable templates. And then it's great to also personalize. So leave those fields blank and let the CRM input certain fields depending on the industry, depending on their name, their titles, things like that. And then again, once you've gotten that all starting to button up, it's really great to capture those practices. And nowadays there are so many automated tools. It's really good to leverage your CRM to the maximum of its capability. Now, once you started seeing some successful templates and people asking for demos and quotes, you're going to want to repeat that. So the best way you can do that is by analyzing your success. And that can mean a bunch of different things. It can mean looking at different reports. CRMs do come with out-of-the-box reporting that will just start collecting data from day one. So you can leverage that, or you can create your own custom reports. You can codify your playbooks. So, turn those successful tactics into repeatable actions that you either place on your calendar or you set up tasks in your CRM to do over and over. And then the third thing you really want to do is build confidence. I do see a lot of the times in smaller organizations that have to run lean and fast is that sometimes the wins aren't really shared across teams. And, you could be missing out on some really interesting information. We've gotten amazing information from project manager teams and from data teams just by sharing, what's going on in the company, what sort of opportunities are on the table, and how people are using the software. And so, it's important to build your confidence in the teams by saying, hey, listen, this is winning. You should definitely try this because we know it works. And also, let me get your feedback as well. And it brings everybody in, to work more as a team rather than somebody working in a silo. The next thing you want to do is streamline your processes. So it is really easy to get bogged down in a lot of the little details. So it's best to kind of figure out, where am I spinning my wheels? Do people really need all of these sales assets, or are they at a different stage in the sales process? And maybe we need to start at stage 3 rather than sending them information from stage 1. So it's important to kind of analyze and look at, what your processes are and then streamline those. Cross-team alignment is really important too in startups. It can be difficult to try to make sure your marketing team and your sales team are aligned, but nothing looks more buttoned up and professional than when you send a sales asset that looks exactly like the website, that looks exactly like the pitch deck that you send, and everything looks clear, consistent, has the same messaging across all channels. It really turns heads. And then once you get to those faster cycles, you can really start honing in on how quickly those sales go to close. And the last thing is to automate. I know that founders are very, very busy, but your CRM tool is your best friend. There are usually a lot of things that I see that aren't being leveraged consistently, like snippets, even something like email templates, or recording your calls, or using a tool to make sure that you're transcripting your calls. All of this stuff is really important to be able to go back and record, and there's tools that will do it all for you. So it's good to kind of lean into those type of things to help you button up and streamline those processes. You definitely want to make sure you're focusing on the selling part. So let your automation handle reminders. Let it handle your follow-ups. Make sure that it's all consistent as well. And then use those tools to capture trends and performance without that manual effort. Okay, and so the last section I'll be going over is mastering the pitch. Delivering your pitch is super, super important. And, as a startup, as a lean business, it can be really hard to get in front of the people you need to, and then make it super impactful, because XR is best in person. And so, you have to find ways to kind of make it happen, bootstrapped and on a very tight budget. So, definitely it's best to craft a clear value proposition before you make it there. Make it accessible. Like, is it going to be easier for you to kind of talk them through the experience with the headset, be there in person, or, hey, if nobody has the time to meet in person, would it be best delivered, over a video call? If you're in construction, would it be best delivered if you're actually on a site? All of these things make a difference to make it impactful. And leverage storytelling. I see a lot of startups kind of shy away from their own story because, they're going to be competitors in the marketplace, and they're going to be bigger than you, and they're going to have more budget, but you're the scrappy startup. You've got a really cool story. This came to you at a particular time in your life that you saw a need in the marketplace. And it's so important to tell these people who you are, because that's going to be the only advantage you really have over somebody that's bigger with a little bit more budget is who you are as a person and why they should choose you. And then the last but not least is, you want to make sure you're ready for any objections that come up, and that's called objection handling. So let's dig into the value proposition. You definitely want to make sure you're anchoring this to a business business outcome. So here's an example. This tool will reduce training time from weeks to days. Or are you saving money? Lower reliance on physical equipment or travel? Or are you looking for, does the person need revenue growth? Open new customer engagement channels. All of these words really matter. And then again, tailor it by the audience. Your CTO is looking for scalability, security, interoperability. A marketing manager wants to hear about engagement, brand. They want analytics. So those two presentations should look completely different depending on the audience. And then make it aspirational, but also practical. So aspirational, an example is, immersive training, workforce learn faster and retain more. But making it practical is this module will integrate with your LMS and be ready in 3 months. So we definitely, make sure you've got that value prop ironed out and ready to share whenever you're in front of folks for a demo. And then we want to make it accessible. So as I was saying before, where is this pitch best delivered? Get in front of them and do it. And even if you're working on a super, super tight budget, send a salesperson and dial in your technical folks. I've often had my phone out on the table with management and technical teams listening on a speaker call so they could weigh in. But I'm there, face to face while making that connection. And that's really important. So you may not be able to fly everybody out there, but one person, really does make a difference in person. Make sure you showcase the aha moment. So why I need this tool. Do it early because you're going to lose interest fast if it's something that they're like, oh, something like this already exists, right? You want to showcase exactly why you're different and why you stand out really early on. And then again, adapt to the audience in front of you. And then something I know a lot of you already know about, leverage storytelling. So, use metrics, show ROI, use those real world case studies, connect in with folks, run tests or case studies through people in your network, get their feedback and kind of understand how people are really going to be using it, and then tell that story. And then when you're anchoring your demo in a narrative like that, you're telling people, here's your challenge and here's how XR solves it. And people can start to envision themselves in that particular scenario. And once they've gotten to that point, then you're getting over the line of doubt and over into a positive response. And then you always want to quantify your benefits whenever possible. And the last thing on the list is objection handling. So again, speak to them in their language, the technical jargon. I've, definitely a very long technical conversation can be enlightening and a lot of fun, but a lot of the times, it misses the important things that a sales conversation needs. What's the timing? What's the budget? Who else are they talking to? These are all things that you want to make sure you understand so that you can win the deal. And then you want to focus on their success story. A lot of the times companies have qualifying questions where when you're going into a meeting or you're in that discovery meeting, you ask them questions about what their process is like, so that way you can sell it in a way that matches their particular use case. And then anticipate objections. We always keep a list of objection handling, objection questions that come up at the end, because I don't feel it's not a negative thing, right? For people to say, well, I don't want this problem. I don't want the product for this particular reason. It's actually really good because they're telling you why they wouldn't buy. And if you can respond to those in a way that convinces them that, that you're actually the right product, you can win the opportunity. And I think that is the last slide. Thank you, guys. I got that through that really fast. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to take any questions. We have a little bit of time here if anybody's interested in.
Yeah, awesome, Jenna. Thank you. Thank you so much. So if anyone has questions, you can raise your hand. Oh, I see there's one down in the front, and that is Sarah B. And then there are a couple more. After Sarah, Jessica, I see. All right, so Sarah, go ahead. Ask a question.
It's always me, isn't it? The first question. Jenna, thank you so much. I took so many notes. And I don't want to unpack a long thing, so there's plenty of time. I'll just say, I saw a lot of overlay, and I would just love to get your thoughts on this briefly. Would you say this model would fit fairly well for someone who wasn't a startup, but also a consultant? And is there anything that maybe if you've worked with consultants as well as startups, is there anything specifically unique that you could tell us about how to apply this model to be a consultant? Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course it would work for a consultant. I mean, I use this myself and I'm a consultant myself. So, they're really just best practices for sales outreach, what this all is. And, you can apply it to pretty much any scenario, especially if you're trying to, increase the number of clients that you're working with.
Am I allowed to do a follow-up?
Okay.
Really quick. So for people who maybe just got out of school or who are changing careers and they don't have a body of work and they're a consultant or a startup, how would you convince your particular audience to choose you?
Yeah. So the best way there is to lean on a network, whether it's XR Women or whether it's a nonprofit, go out, do a couple of get a couple of contracts or jobs at little to no cost so that you can have practice and then get their approval to allow to use them as a case study. And that way you actually have proof that not only you can do it, but you can deliver results.
Thank you.
I think Jessica had a question as well.
Yes, I do. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for sharing your experience with us. Really, it was a very rich presentation. My question is, what kind of data do you usually use to show users' engagement, or I don't know, maybe the selling, the amount of download? What kind of data do you usually use?
I mean, it depends on what your goals are and what you're wanting to track. I mean, obviously, you want to know how many emails you're sending out versus how many are responding. You want to know, how many contracts you're sending out versus how many get closed. How many people are opening your emails. And like I said, I know I mentioned a couple of times that a lot of CRMs come out of the box that already track a lot of this information, and you don't even really have to turn it on. I highly recommend HubSpot because they come straight out of the box with the sales activity dashboard that you can monitor and just sort of go through and fine tune and learn what's working and what's not working. And I'm always happy to catch up with you afterwards if you want to share a little bit more about your particular use case or the tools that you use, so I can talk to you a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much for it.
Anybody else have a question? Raise your hand.
I actually do. Yep,
Oh,
I've got
sure,
one.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Jenna, for your presentation and discussion. And one of the things that I was just thinking, based on actually what Jessica was just asking, was the increased need to obviously see the data and visualization of data. And my question to you is, have you seen an increase in the need or request for more details or in a visual way using XR
maybe, or maybe not, or is it just still 2D, to demonstrate the changes in, what's happening in the business. Graphs are so 1980s in my head, right? So I guess my question is more about visualization, and are you seeing a change of request or application or anything like that around that with consultation?
One thing I want to, as far as XR startups are concerned, a lot of people you talk to either have little to no experience in the XR world, and so they just don't know what sort of data is available for them as far as like analytics on your end of it, and so they kind of need to be guided. It was funny because we were talking to somebody the other day. This was literally what they asked, was like, what kind of data can we get? And it was like, well, what do you want? And it was just blank, right? Because it didn't really know what was available. And so, at the end of your sessions or whenever you're pitching, kind of guiding them through trying to understand, well, what is it that you're trying to achieve with this particular project, and then tailor the metrics that you can gather to them, makes a big impact. And you will always see the surprise on their face with just the sheer amount of analytics you can get out of an XR applications. So yeah, I think it's interesting. You kind of have to guide them.
Yeah, I think there's obviously there's two things here. There's what we're collecting, and now we get to collect on a 3D axis, right? That's kind of how you say it. And then there's how we show that data in a visualized way, and whether it be actually Caitlin is in the crowd, and I went through her experience where I went into the visualization of the wellness program, right? Is Caitlin still here, or is she not? I'm not sure if she is.
I think she left. She was down here. Yeah.
Oh, she was here. So it's too bad. But I went into VR and walked into the visualization of this data about it was a health and wellness, and obviously I could walk through the data. So I guess it's just more for conversation. I'm just stirring that up of how much that data inquiry and how we visualize it and interpret it is going to mean everything soon for business.
Oh yeah, I
right?
love it. It's like even
decisions to be made.
That's great. Yeah, Julie, I think you and I should have a sidebar about that. That's very intriguing. Something that I think could be a good potential add-on to folks who are having XR projects built. So I'll catch up.
I would love that, because it's all about spatial. This is a conversation in my world, like on the daily now, is more about spatial awareness, more about spatial design, and the people who have spatial awareness will be the ones that will transform the easiest to understand what's happening in this space. So yeah, I would love that. I would love that. And I'm sure the community would love to know more about that, because nobody's really talking about how we're going to visualize this data and interpret it, or how we're going to interpret it by the way that we're going to be able to interact and visualize it.
Yeah, that would be a fun presentation.
All right. Maybe we can do something with 3D and FX and all the things. Maybe we'll make a note to ask Chris Madsen. Maybe he can help us with something, Karen, and see if we can create something where we can talk about that. So yeah, that'd be fun. Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks, Jenna.
No problem. Thank you. Does anybody else have any
has a question? Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Questions or comments or contributions or experience. I think we have 5 minutes left.
I have a question,
Oh,
Jenna.
there you go.
What do you find that startups or companies or consultants, for that matter, usually struggle with the most of the things that you mentioned? What are the biggest pain points on the selling side? I'm talking about. I don't necessarily mean just of all the processes you went through. What do people find most difficult when trying to sell their products and services?
You know what, Karen, I'm glad you asked, because I had written this down, but I don't think I mentioned it in the presentation. Was one of the things that I get told a lot especially by founders, is that they just don't have the time. We started a bunch of conversations, but nothing has really come out of them. And 75% of your opportunities will, or at least 75% of any email outreach, the folks will not respond until after your fifth or sixth touch point. And that's a lot, right? If you're a busy founder. And that's why it's so important to automate a lot of your processes, but with a level of personalization that doesn't make it seem very cold and distant. And so, plugging in with somebody like myself or another freelance salesperson can really help save the day a lot of the times. Just because opportunities are inbound doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to close. They could be talking to a lot of other people. And so, as many conversations as I bring founders in on, I typically have twice as many with the client because I'm the one over here making sure that all of their questions are being answered, and I'm getting in front of them and talking to them and building that relationship. And it's really important to be able to do that. But you're also, as a founder, you might be a technical founder, or just as a CEO in general, you have a lot of things to take care of. And so, making sure you have that help to follow up is very, very important. Thank you. And yeah, are very important because if you look at everybody, I have to see some of the startups that are a little bit slower for growth are typically the ones that shut out their competition. They don't want to share anything. They don't want to work with anybody if some of their features overlap. And you're just going to go farther, and you're going to be able to create more value for your client if you integrate and partner up. Like, look at HubSpot. Look at how fast they came up and started to take over Salesforce's business. I think that's really something interesting to think about, like how these integrations can really help people see a lot of value. And some companies, even the larger ones, want to support multiple startups. They'd rather support multiple startups than one other enterprise organization. So, it's always best to see who you can work with.
Yeah, that's great. I see Shamika had a question.
I'm sorry, I was trying to unmute. It's not really a question, it's more of a testament to Jenna's work, because I would tell anybody, if she has on her schedule to do a one-on-one, you should attend. She's helped me out with a whole bunch of brainstorming ideas and things like that. She knows what she's talking about. It's very informative, and all the things that she said, because I was not going to miss this one, everything that she said in her presentation is very true, especially coming from being a founder myself. We do not have time. We try to make time for everything, especially if we're very particular and want to turn out a really good product and make sure everybody's happy, even though you can't please everybody. But your name and your reputation and your work needs to speak for itself. And Jenna helps you, navigate through those ideas and the jargon that, I'm a founder and I'm not in tech, but I'm not in tech, but I'm in tech. That wasn't my first thing, being tech and things like that, but trying to help navigate and understand it. And she does a really good job of doing that.
Thank you, Shamika. And it's really been wonderful to watch you grow. I mean, I watched you come into some of the first sessions, just kind of asking a lot of questions, and now you're just so obviously running the show. I'm so proud to have been a part of that growth with you. So thank you.
That's great to hear. Awesome. And we had one more question. We're past our official time, but I think it was Juliana who had her hand up there in the back. Is that right, Juliana?
Yes. Hi, Jenna. I have a really good question here. It's really true that we all have extremely busy lives, and I was wondering, how much time do you spend doing R&D? Because I can't even keep up with all the new things that are happening. So, do you have an application or something that you go to that feeds you what's happening currently in the industry? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know some founders shy away from it, but ChatGPT is your friend. As a startup founder, nothing can help you iterate, help you kind of come up with ideas, or just help you with research. ChatGPT is a research assistant, has been a lifesaver. Definitely have to be really good at creating extremely detailed prompts, which is also something ChatGPT can help you with. And then I also try to make sure to always tell it to cite its sources so that it doesn't hallucinate random details. And so I can, if I'm unsure about something, I can always go and click a link and verify the information that it's giving me. Also, once you really, really, really get fine-tuned with what your product offering is, it's easier to look for it on a website. So if you're going to, let's say it's like a kind of a larger organization's website, make sure you know keywords that you need. Like I always try to visit websites and I try to make sure to look up to see if the organization is already involved in XR projects. And so I'll just type in, XR or virtual reality or other keywords just to see kind of what they're doing. And then, just try to understand, if they're getting funding, kind of what their funding is going towards. That way you can really tailor your approach in that particular way.
Great, thank you. One more question. I think I saw Diana from XR Girls Africa with her hand up. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Hi, Jenna. Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. My question is, for us here in Africa, we have been trying to bring tangible products in the metaverse. So, for example, we sell baskets made by our own students, by their own hands, and we bring those products in the metaverse for people who would want to buy them across the world. My question is, from where you stand, do you see a prosperous market in the metaverse for tangible products or goods?
That's a tough one. It's really case by case, and I'd be happy to have a sidebar with you to kind of dig in a little bit more into how you're selling it, who you're selling it to, and how you're getting it out there. I think it is important for there to be digital twins of physical products, at least in the metaverse, if you're trying to sell it, gives it a whole nother layer. But it's also important for you to share those on channels that are accessible to people. Remember, we said that in the conversation, is make it accessible. So, if they don't have a headset, then, share a QR code or a link, over social media where they can pull up that 3D asset and still look at it real time from their phones or from their devices. Because while it seems like AR might actually take off and it's still growing and there's a lot of buzz around it, there's still not a lot of people who spend a lot of time in the metaverse. So it is important for you to make sure you're reaching them where they're at.
Yeah, I love what you said, because we have been taking pictures of them and spreading them in our worlds in the metaverse. Sometimes we take photogrammetry photos. We've been learning that skill and taking the 3D image into the world. I wouldn't say the market is prosperous yet. We are struggling a bit, but it's not too good, it's not too bad. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, you've got some traction, and that's important, right? So, again, that part of the presentation where it said focus on your wins, repeat your wins, go look at what's working, and try to dig a little further into that. And we can have another conversation, talk a little bit more about that later.
Great. Well, we are past our time here. Jenna, thank you so much for a very valuable and insightful presentation. Clearly, everyone enjoyed it and was engaged, and we really appreciate you taking the time. And for those of you who are on our Slack channel, and I hope you all are, join the Activities and Games channel and hang out with Jenna and other members of the community on Thursday evenings to play games, Thursday evenings, U.S. Eastern Time, I should say. And so we hope to see you all there. Let's have a round of applause for Jenna. Very well done. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jenna.
Thank you, Karen.
Sure. Very glad to have you. One thing so I want to tell everyone, and I think we can end the recording here. Christine, thank you very much for recording. But I just learned